Today I wanted to try making some pine tar for a project. All the videos I found were in the summer, which I later on find out the hard way. This can't be done in the winter. It's a summer only project. So I need to knock some holes in the bottom of the pan, or in the bottom of this pail, so that the pine tar can drain out into the pot we put in the ground. I'm just using a hunk of fence rod. I don't have a tape or chisel. Anything pointy would be ideal. You want to do it from the inside. You can see how the burrs shoot out and we concave the bottom so that the sap or syrup or tar will collect in the center and drain out. Otherwise it would stay in the pan. We want to drain down into the pot. This is definitely a lot easier in the summer when the snow is on the ground. It's really hard to work in the snow. So the pot is buried level with the ground. We want to keep the pot under the ground because if the fire gets near the pot of oil, it will burn as well. And we want it to not burn. We want it to actually condensate and cool off. So this actually fits really nicely on top of that. And then it's at ground level or slightly below. If you choose to do this, don't breathe the smoke for the first little while. These cans are galvanized. Galvanized is toxic, so stay away from the smoke. Don't breathe it till it off gases. If you could get one that wasn't galvanized, that would be ideal, but I don't think you can buy trash cans that aren't, so you just have to burn it off and do not breathe the smoke. It is horribly toxic. If you can see, we're getting a bit of smoke from underneath the lid. I think it's already starting to off gas inside the can. Well, the galvanize is starting to burn off. By the way, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know if I'm doing this right. So this is more or less an experiment. We're gonna find out. We got the idea for doing this back in the summer when we were peeling logs. We noticed a lot of the fir logs are really resiny, really sappy. It covered our hands and the sap was actually coming out of the boils on the bark. So we were actually thinking about rendering it down at that point. We just never got around to it. So now we're trying it now. and we're just kind of seeing what happens. It's more or less a giant experiment that I'm probably doing wrong. I figured I'd bring this process to where the firewood is. Instead of bringing the firewood up front, I figured we'd take everything to the back. It's easier to transport these small little things than it is to transport a whole bunch of firewood all the way up. Legs on fire. It's nearly burned down now, so we want to leave it for a little while. You do not want to take the top barrel off while this is hot. This has to completely burn down, all the heat to dissipate, because we have an oil underneath. Remember, there's 3 elements to making fire. 1, oxygen. 2 is heat. 3 is fuel. So in that bucket of oil there, we have fuel and we have heat. We are missing oxygen. It is an oxygen-deprived environment. That's the only reason why this thing hasn't exploded into a fireball. If we remove that top container off of the barrel of oil, or the pot of oil underneath, we will provide the 3rd element, which is oxygen, and it will woof, and we'll lose all our oil, plus maybe our eyebrows. So we gotta let it cool off. All the coals have to burn down. It has to cool off completely. So it's gonna take a few hours to cool off, and then we are able to take the top off, which will provide, there's biochar will be inside of the trash can on top, and the oil will be underneath. We just have to let this cool now before we take that off. I think I'm going to run our batch or 2 through. I want more oil than this for our next project. We definitely got more with batch number 2. One thing I have noticed, the trees don't seem to be as sticky. You don't want to get into that. Don't seem to be as sticky in the wintertime as they are in the summer. And I don't think it's coming out as much. Like, I think most of the sap is down in the roots, same as hardwood trees do. I can't get at any of the roots, so I can't dig the roots out, which are generally the fat wood. They generally have the most amount of sap in them, or tar or resin, whatever you want to call it. I just can't get to them right now because they're under 2 feet of snow. It's just really not feasible. So I don't know how this is going to work. It's probably more ideal to do in the summertime, but the biggest thing within the summer is sparks. It's really hard to do without lighting stuff on fire, because when the sap's up, it's also really dry. So it'd be you'd have to pick a very good day when it's been raining for a while, maybe later into the fall, I don't know. I'll see how this cools off and what it's like. but it just doesn't seem to be as, doesn't quite smell the same and doesn't seem as sticky on my fingers as what I was thinking it would be, and as it was back in the summer when we were peeling those logs. One of the bonuses, another bucket full of biochar. I'm keeping that all in a feed bag. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use it for something, or whether I'll just put it in the compost pile, or whether we'll try and use it for fire lighting in the trailer. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm keeping it either way because obviously it's a very useful byproduct. It's really good for gardens and soil, but I don't have a use for that right now, so we'll see what I do with it. But I'm keeping it either way. The main point of today was just to get the oil, and I'm going to see what it's like once it cools off, because it's really runny right now. It's pretty much the consistency of water, but right now it's also steaming hot still. So it sat up overnight. I'm going to see how thick it is, if it thickened up to what I want. So apparently there's a bunch of water in here. It's not actually pine tar as much as I was thinking. So you can see the ice in there. So there's a lot of water in it too. It's definitely not as black as I was expecting. So I'm going to use some of the charcoal we made yesterday, and I'm going to use the water stove, and we're just going to light the charcoal, set the pot on top, and basically essentially render it down, thicken it up to an actual tar consistency is what I'm kind of going for. See how this works. I don't honestly know what's going to happen. That biochar actually works really nice. It lit really fast and just got a glowing pile of coals really fast. I think it took 4 or 5 minutes, and I was able to put the pot on. So this works really good. So we're going to use up the biochar we made probably doing this, but let's see what happens. This is a giant experiment. Okay, I don't know if you can see, that did not work. I boiled it right down. There's absolutely nothing left. It never did thicken up the way I was looking for. I think in the winter time, all the sticky resin is down in the roots, and there's just a bit of moisture that remains in the tree. And I basically made liquid creosote. That would be why it didn't smell right and didn't feel right. So I guess I have to do this in the summertime. You can't do this in the wintertime. I can still make biochar. I just can't make pine or spruce or fir tar in the wintertime. Because there was a lot of sticky resin. There was little bubbles on the bark on the trees back in August when we were peeling them. And I was going to do it then. I just never got to it. But I touched the trees now handling them when we were cutting them up for this. And they weren't the same sticky. There just wasn't those sticky boils, like a small little, like the size of your thumbnail, bubbles of pure sticky resin on the bark, the same as there was back in the summertime. So I guess you can't do this in the wintertime, at least not with the fir trees anyway. I've never tried the pine, and we don't really have much, so I don't really want to cut what we do have. Most of it's big enough that it's too big for doing this with, so I don't really want to cut it up for that. I would rather just use the fir just because we have it. I guess that was a fail. I still made some biochar. I still got to try the process. It was still fun. It was just an experiment that didn't work. I still got the metal trash can. It's in really good shape. It's a really heavy gauge one, so it didn't get hurt whatsoever. It didn't get warped or anything. All it did was just burn the galvanize off it. Otherwise, it's in beautiful shape, so I can use it many times again. I didn't get what I wanted, so I guess the project I was planning on has to wait till the spring, or wait till the summer when the resin comes back in the trees, and I can get at the roots to get more of the fat wood. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good day.